In the sprawling Bel Air mansion, the silence was broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the hallway. I opened my suitcase on the thick carpet of the walk-in closet and began to pack my clothes, piece by piece. At 8 months pregnant, my belly was undeniably large. Bending down was difficult, but my movements were slow, steady, and entirely noiseless. Downstairs in the living room, Declan had just left. He had a business dinner tonight. Before walking out the door, he hadn't even glanced my way. "Ma'am, are you going on a long trip?" Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, walked in holding a cup of chamomile tea. Seeing the open suitcase on the floor, she paused in surprise. Sophia Hayes didn't lift her head. "Mrs. Higgins, could you leave, please? I'd like to be alone for a while." Mrs. Higgins hesitated for a second, set the teacup on the vanity, and quietly exited. Only when the door clicked shut did Sophia slowly raise her head to look at her reflection in the mirror. Her face was swollen, her skin dull. Wearing a shapeless maternity dress, she looked like a maid. Was this really the wife of Declan Montgomery, the billionaire CEO of the Montgomery Group? No, she was just the placeholder Declan had found to replace Chloe Vance. Sophia's mind drifted back to what had happened earlier that afternoon. She had planned to pack her hospital bag. She was a month away from her due date, and things needed to be ready. Inside the oak cabinet in Declan's home office, there was a storage box. Thinking it contained some baby clothes they had bought, she opened it to take a look. Instead, she found a black Moleskine notebook. It was old, the corners frayed, but meticulously preserved. It had clearly been handled often. Sophia opened the first page. There, written in elegant handwriting, it read, "Chloe, today is the 1st of September 2015. The first day I met you." Her hand froze. Chloe Vance, Declan's college sweetheart, his first love. The woman who had left him to marry a tech billionaire and now lived in Singapore. Sophia kept turning the pages. Page 2. Chloe loves vanilla lattes with a dash of cinnamon and a French macaron. Page 3. Chloe is terrified of thunderstorms. Whenever it rains, she needs me to hold her. Page 4. Chloe says the scent of lavender calms her. So I bought out the store's entire stock of that lavender hand cream. Page 5. When Chloe cries, the tip of her nose turns bright red. It's adorable. Page 6. Today Chloe asked what would happen if we ever broke up. I told her it would never happen. She smiled, but it looked forced. 12 pages in total. Sophia flipped through them one by one, her fingertips growing colder. She wasn't entirely ignorant. She knew Declan held someone else in his heart. On their wedding night, he had drunk too much bourbon, grabbed her hand in a stupor, and murmured Chloe's name. She hadn't made a scene. She had gently pulled her hand away and whispered, "You're drunk." During their 3 years of marriage, Declan had rarely touched her. It was only when grandmother Eleanor, the Montgomery matriarch, began aggressively demanding an heir that he reluctantly fulfilled his marital duties just once. And from that single night, she got pregnant. After she conceived, Declan reverted to his old self. Leaving at dawn, returning past midnight, he hardly spoke to her. Even for her prenatal appointments, he simply had his driver take her to Cedars-Sinai. Sophia used to tell herself it didn't matter. High society marriages were often like this. Mutual respect, separate lives, shared interests. But today, seeing that notebook, it all clicked. It wasn't that he was incapable of love. He just didn't love her. He had poured every ounce of his tenderness into those pages, hoarding it for a woman who was never coming back. And what was she? Her name wasn't written a single time in that black notebook. Sophia closed the book, put it exactly where she found it, and stood up, supporting her lower back. She walked out of the study, returned to the master suite, and opened the suitcase in the closet not to pack a hospital bag, but to pack everything she needed to leave this house forever. Her iPhone buzzed. It was a text from her best friend, Harper. "Sophia, are you sure? I booked the flight. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. LAX to JFK." Sophia typed back, "I'm leaving tonight." Harper sent a question mark. "I can't stay in this house for another hour." She locked her phone and hurried to finish packing. She only took her most frequently worn casual clothes. On the vanity, she left the velvet jewelry box containing the $2 million diamond set Declan had given her on their wedding day. It belonged to the Montgomery family. She wouldn't take it. All she took was the money she had quietly saved over the last 3 years. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to survive in New York for a while. Sophia zipped the suitcase and dragged it into the hallway. Mrs. Higgins appeared again, looking visibly nervous. "Ma'am, where are you going? Does Mr. Montgomery know?" Sophia offered a faint, distant smile. "Mrs. Higgins, could you pass on a message for me?" "What message?" Mrs. Higgins asked. "The notebook in the office cabinet. Tell him he doesn't need to hide it anymore." Mrs. Higgins's face drained of color. Looking at the housekeeper's guilty expression, Sophia understood everything. So, Mrs. Higgins knew too. Everyone knew. A ghost named Chloe Vance lived in this house. Only the actual lady of the house had been kept in the dark. She said nothing else. She dragged her suitcase down the grand staircase. Her heels clicked against the Italian marble floors, producing a sharp, definitive sound. Each step was firm. Each step was taken without looking back. Downstairs, the butler, Thomas, saw her state and rushed over. "Mrs. Montgomery, what's wrong? Let me call a car for you." "Call me an Uber," Sophia interrupted. "I can drive you myself, ma'am," Thomas insisted. "Not necessary." She pulled open the massive front doors. The night air was a bit chilly. Outside the gated estate, the streets of Bel Air were dead quiet. The dim yellow streetlights illuminated the palm trees lining the road. Sophia waited by the gate for about 5 minutes. The black SUV arrived. The driver got out to help load her luggage into the trunk. "Where to?" he asked. "Lax." As the car door shut, she took one final look at the mansion she had called home for 3 years. Declan's Rolls-Royce was still missing from the garage. He was still at his business dinner, oblivious to what time he would return. "Let's go." The SUV pulled away slowly. She leaned against the window, resting a hand on her prominent belly, and whispered, "Lily, Mommy's taking you away. From now on, your last name is Hayes. We are never coming back to this house." As the car merged onto the 405 freeway, a light drizzle began to fall. The raindrops hit the window, blurring the reflection of that mansion in the rearview mirror. Sophia didn't look back. Her phone vibrated again. A text from Declan. Just 4 words. "Not coming home tonight." Sophia stared at those 4 words for 3 seconds. Then, she popped the SIM tray open, snapped the card in 2, and tossed it into the car's trash cup. "Driver, can we go a little faster, please?" The SUV sped up through the rainy night toward the airport. Sophia closed her eyes, her hand still cradling her stomach. The baby kicked, as if answering her. She smiled. This time, it was a real smile. The departure hall at LAX was brightly lit, but being a 1 a.m. red-eye flight, there weren't many people waiting. Sophia dragged her suitcase to the Delta counter and handed over her ID. The agent glanced at her belly and asked, "Ma'am, how many weeks along are you?" 32 weeks. The agent hesitated. "Ma'am, airline policy requires a doctor's note for anything past 36 weeks of gestation. At 32 weeks you can fly, but we need you to sign a medical liability waiver." "No problem. Give me the paper." She took the pen and signed her name quickly. Each stroke was made with force, as if she were signing a divorce decree. In fact, she had already left that divorce decree on the vanity, right beneath the diamond set Declan had given her. The agreement, which had been prepared by a lawyer in advance, was simple. She voluntarily relinquished all claims to the Montgomery assets. She asked for 0 alimony and requested only one thing: sole custody of the child. The child would take her last name and have absolutely no ties to the Montgomery family. She had signed it. Declan hadn't yet. But it didn't matter. She could wait. Or, more accurately, she didn't need his consent to leave. Boarding pass in hand, Sophia headed for security. The TSA line was empty, and she passed through quickly. A concourse convenience store was still open. She went in, bought a cup of warm milk, and sat down to drink it slowly. The SIM card was already broken. Now her phone was just a useless weight. But she knew Declan wouldn't call her. He didn't even remember how many months pregnant she was. How could he possibly notice she had left home in the middle of the night? Thinking of this, Sophia couldn't help but smile. A bitter smile. She remembered their wedding 3 years ago. The Montgomery family had thrown the grandest wedding in Los Angeles, booking the entirety of the Beverly Hills Hotel. Spending $2 million, she walked down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown, and Declan was waiting for her at the end. He wore a black Tom Ford tuxedo, looking as handsome as a GQ cover model. At that moment, Sophia thought, "This is the man I'm going to marry." But when she reached him and he slipped the ring onto her finger, she realized his eyes were empty. He was looking at her, but at the same time, he wasn't. Later, she found out he was seeing someone else through her. Chloe Vance. Chloe and Declan were college classmates and dated for 4 years. At the time, Chloe's family business was failing. Her parents were drowning in debt. And afore the Chloe Jowsen, the Levin Inex, grandmother Eleanor fiercely opposed the marriage, claiming Chloe was a gold digger who would bring bad luck. Declan, fighting for Chloe, argued with his family and moved out of the house for 6 months. Then, Chloe suddenly disappeared. Rumor had it she had married a wealthy businessman from Singapore. Someone much richer than Declan. Declan searched for her for 3 months to no avail, and then he became the person he was now, cold, distant, indifferent to everyone. Grandmother Eleanor, terrified he would stay single forever, arranged dates for him. Sophia was one of those candidates. Her family owned a chain of regional supermarkets. They weren't considered high society, upper middle class at best. The matriarch liked her for being honest, obedient, and easy to control. And so, the marriage was arranged. Sophia's parents, of course, were thrilled. Marrying into the Montgomery family was something many families only dreamed of. And so, she married without love, without even dating beforehand. Even the engagement party was a mere formality. Declan only spoke one complete sentence to her on their wedding day. "I feel nothing for you, but I won't treat you poorly." At the time, Sophia thought the lack of feelings wasn't a problem, that they could be cultivated over time. Now, she understood. In some people's hearts, there is only room for one person. When that person moves out, the door is locked. No one else can enter. The intercom chimed, announcing boarding for the flight to New York. Sophia stood up and threw the empty cup into the trash. She dragged her suitcase toward the gate. Her steps were firm, without a single drop of hesitation. Upon boarding, the flight attendant, seeing her large belly, arranged a seat for her in the bulkhead row for extra space. Sophia thanked her, sat down, and fastened her seatbelt. The plane began to taxi. The runway lights flashed by, one by one. She placed her hand on her belly and whispered, "Lily, we're going to be flying for a long time. Be a good girl, don't fuss." The baby kicked, as if to answer. Sophia closed her eyes. She was exhausted. Over the last 3 years, she hadn't had a single night of peaceful sleep. It wasn't physical exhaustion, but mental, waking up every day to face a husband who didn't love her, pretending every day that she was so happy, smiling every day to answer her mother-in-law's invasive questions. It was enough. It was truly enough. The moment the plane lifted into the air, Sophia's tears finally fell. She made no sound, just let the tears run silently down her face. A flight attendant approached and asked if she needed a blanket. She shook her head and wiped the tears with her sleeve. There was no reason to cry. Leaving a man who didn't love her was a good thing, not a bad one. At the same time, in the Montgomery estate in Bel Air, when Declan returned from his business dinner, it was past 2 a.m. He had been drinking, but he wasn't drunk. His tolerance had always been high. The driver stopped the car at the door, and he walked in alone. The mansion was completely dark. Even the hallway light was off. He frowned and called out, "Mrs. Higgins?" No one answered. He turned on his phone's flashlight and stumbled up the stairs. Passing by the master bedroom, he paused for a moment. Sophia would normally be asleep at this hour, but she never turned off the hallway sconce, afraid he wouldn't be able to see his way when he got back. Today, the light was off. Declan thought it was a bit strange, but didn't dwell on it. He pushed the bedroom door open. The room was also dark. He flipped the light switch and saw that the custom king-sized bed was impeccably made, the sheets untouched. She wasn't there. He was perplexed for a moment, then went to check the ensuite bathroom. Nobody. The walk-in closet. He walked over and opened the door. The automatic lights flickered on. But there was no one. Declan looked around, feeling that something was wrong. He stared for 3 seconds and finally realized what it was. Sophia's suitcase was missing. That small, cheap pink suitcase she had brought when they got married usually sat at the bottom of the closet. Now the space was empty, and more than half her casual clothes were missing from her wardrobe. On the vanity was the velvet jewelry box. On top of the box was an envelope. Declan walked over and picked it up. Written on the envelope were 3 words: Divorce Settlement Agreement. His heart suddenly sank. He tore it open. Inside was a printed sheet of paper. I, Sophia Hayes, due to an irretrievable breakdown of the relationship, voluntarily agree to dissolve my marriage to Mr. Declan Montgomery. I forfeit all claims to the Montgomery assets and require 0 alimony. Sole physical and legal custody of the unborn child is granted to me, with absolutely no ties to the Montgomery family. Signed and effective as of this date. Below was Sophia Hayes' signature. The date was today's. Next to the paper lay the wedding band he had never seen her take off. Declan stared at the letter, his hands shaking. He pulled out his phone, found Sophia's number, and called. The subscriber you have dialed is powered off. He called again, still off. He then called Mrs. Higgins. The phone rang 3 times before she answered, her voice thick with sleep. Where is my wife? Declan's voice was as cold as ice. Mrs. Higgins's voice choked with tears. Sir, Mrs. Montgomery. She left. She said she was going to the airport. What time did she leave? Around 11 p.m., Mrs. Higgins sobbed. I tried to get Thomas to drive her, but she wouldn't let him. She called an Uber. Before she left, she asked me to give you a message. What message? Mrs. Higgins hesitated. She said, the notebook in the office cabinet. Tell him he doesn't need to hide it anymore. Declan's face went chalk white in an instant. He hung up the phone, sprinted to the study, tore open the oak cabinet, and pulled out the black notebook. He opened it. It was full of words, all the things he had written for Chloe. He had forgotten the notebook was even there. He had forgotten that Sophia was going to organize the baby's things today. He had forgotten. Declan threw the notebook on the floor, leaning on the mahogany desk with both hands, breathing heavily. Then he grabbed his car keys, sprinted out of the office, and ran down the stairs. His driver, Ray, was still waiting out front. Seeing his boss in that state, he was startled. Sir, what happened? LAX. Now, Declan roared. The car peeled out, shooting out of the gated community. Declan, in the back seat, repeatedly called Sophia's phone always off. He remembered she was pregnant, 32 weeks, all alone, dragging a suitcase through the airport. What if something happened? He didn't even dare to think about it. Upon arriving at LAX, Declan sprinted into the terminal, ran up to the Delta information desk, and practically shouted, I need to find a passenger, Sophia Montgomery or Sophia Hayes. A flight tonight. The agent was startled by his demeanor and typed frantically. Sir, Mrs. Sophia Hayes boarded flight DL 412 to New York JFK. The plane has already taken off. Declan was paralyzed. Taken off? She was gone. He looked at the time. 1:45 a.m. The plane had been in the air for 35 minutes. Declan slowly crouched down, burying his head in his hands. He remembered that before he left that afternoon, Sophia was sitting in the living room folding baby clothes. She folded them so carefully, one by one, stacking them in perfect piles. When he walked out, she had looked up at him. What was in that look? Only now did he understand. It was a goodbye. He returned to the Bel Air mansion completely lost. Declan had stayed crouched on the airport floor for 10 minutes. Motionless. Passing travelers stared at the man in the designer suit looking so devastated. Someone recognized him and whispered, Isn't that the CEO of the Montgomery Group? Why is he on the floor? What happened? Declan heard none of it. His mind was filled with Sophia's face, the face that never showed sorrow in front of him. He recalled how Sophia had treated him over the last 3 years. She woke up at 7:00 am sharp every day to make his breakfast. He liked pour-over coffee, and she learned how to make it by hand. He liked his dress shirts ironed without a single crease, and she spent half an hour every day pressing them. No matter how late he came home from business dinners, there was always a light on in the living room and a thermos of hot tea for his hangovers. She never complained. She never threw tantrums. She never asked for anything. Even the designer jewelry she wore was forced upon her by his grandmother. She herself never asked for a dime. Declan had always thought this was a good arrangement. Uncomplicated, not clingy. Being Mrs. Montgomery in silence was enough. He even thought Sophia did it willingly. After all, he had given her the status of Mrs. Montgomery, A life of luxury? Wealth that others couldn't achieve in several lifetimes. What more could she be dissatisfied with? But today, he discovered that what she wanted was never that. And what she truly wanted, he had never given her. Ray, his driver, approached cautiously. "Sir, how about we go home first?" Mrs. Montgomery went to New York. "When she gets there, maybe she'll contact you." Declan stood up, his eyes a bit hollow. "She won't contact me." "Why not?" Ray asked. "She broke her SIM card." Ray was at a loss for words. The two returned to the SUV. Declan didn't say a word, his fingers tapping incessantly against the window. When the car pulled back up to the mansion, the sky was already beginning to lighten. Declan walked in, and Mrs. Higgins, eyes red, came to meet him. "Sir, you're finally back." "Ma'am." "She didn't even take her hospital bag." "She just left." "What do you mean she didn't take her hospital bag?" "Yesterday afternoon she said she was going to pack it. I just checked, and the bag is still empty." "She didn't pack any of it. She only took her own carry-on." Declan's heart sank a little further. She hadn't even taken the things for the delivery. That meant she had no intention of staying with the Montgomery family on the day of the birth. She wanted to disappear completely. He walked up the stairs and entered the bedroom. Everything was just as it was the night before the jewelry box and the divorce agreement on the vanity. He picked up the paper and read it again, his eyes locking onto the final sentence. "Sole physical and legal custody of the unborn child is granted to me, with absolutely no ties to the Montgomery family." His child. No ties to the Montgomery family. Declan crumpled the paper into a ball and threw it into the trash can. Then he reached in, pulled it back out, uncrumpled it, and smoothed it flat. He couldn't sign it. He couldn't let his child be fatherless. But the problem was, could he even find her? New York was so massive. If someone wanted to hide, how would he find her? He grabbed his phone and called his executive assistant. "Book me on the next flight to New York." The assistant on the other end hesitated. "Mr. Montgomery, you have a critical board of directors meeting this morning." "I said book it!" Declan roared. He hung up the phone and began to pack a duffel bag, but stopped halfway because he realized he knew nothing about Sophia. He didn't know her favorite color. He didn't know her dress size. He didn't know what brand of skincare she used. He didn't know what movies she liked. He didn't know who her best friend was. 3 years. He knew less about her than he knew about a newly hired intern. Declan sat on the floor of the walk-in closet, surrounded by the things Sophia hadn't taken. She had left most of her clothes, taking only a few simple pieces. She had left all the Birkin bags and designer shoes, taking only her cheap suitcase. She had left all the diamonds he had given her, taking only the silver necklace she had bought for herself. She wanted nothing from him, not even to give his child the Montgomery name. Mrs. Higgins knocked on the door, bringing a bowl of soup. "Sir, please eat something. Don't ruin your health." Declan didn't respond. "Actually, sir." "Mrs. Montgomery always had a very hard time here, Mrs." Higgins added softly. Declan looked up. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Higgins hesitated. "Do you remember that time you went on a business trip last winter?" Declan thought for a moment. "The time I went to London?" Mrs. Higgins nodded. "You were gone for a month. That night, she had a terrible fever, 104 degrees. She was shivering violently, all alone in the house with no one to take care of her. I told her to go to the hospital, but she said it wasn't necessary, that the press couldn't find out Mrs. Montgomery was sick while you were away, so as not to embarrass you." Declan's hands clenched into fists. "She just took some Tylenol and toughed it out all night," Mrs. Higgins continued. "The next day, her fever broke, and she started ironing your shirts. I told her to rest more, but she said you were almost back, and she didn't want you to come home to a messy house." Tears fell from the housekeeper's eyes. "Sir, she truly loved you. But you never really looked at her." Declan's voice was hoarse. "I didn't know about any of this." "Of course you didn't know," Mrs. Higgins said, "because she never let me tell you. She said you were a man doing important things and couldn't be distracted by domestic issues." Declan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the estate's gardens. In the spring, Sophia had planted a row of roses that were now in full bloom. He had never noticed those roses. He had never noticed anything she did. His phone rang. It was his assistant. "Mr. Montgomery, your flight to JFK is booked for 2 p.m. today." He hung up, went into the end suite, took a shower, and put on clean clothes. While looking at himself in the mirror, he saw 2 tubes of toothpaste on the marble vanity. One was his, mint-flavored. The other was hers, strawberry-flavored. His toothpaste was almost empty. But hers was brand new because she knew she would never use the toothpaste in this house again. Declan picked up the strawberry toothpaste and gripped it tightly in his hand. When he went downstairs, Grandmother Eleanor had arrived. The matriarch, leaning on her silver-tipped cane, stood in the living room with an expression of pure fury. "Declan, explain to me how Sophia just vanished." "Grandmother, it's my fault." Eleanor slammed her cane against the marble floor. "Of course it's your fault. Do you think I don't know about that pathetic notebook of yours? Do you think I don't know you still obsess over that gold digger Chloe Vance?" Declan said nothing. "Sophia is carrying your child. She's 8 months pregnant," Eleanor continued. "How could you let her get on a plane alone in that condition? If something happens, can you take responsibility? I am going to New York immediately to find her," Eleanor scoffed. "Find her? Do you think she'll let you? If she wanted to leave, she won't let you find her. Even if you have to turn the world upside down, I expect you to find her." Eleanor glared at him for a long moment and said, "Think about it. Sophia is a girl with pride. She doesn't want your money. She doesn't want your name. She wants nothing. Even if you find her, she might not want to come back with you. Then you beg her to come back." Eleanor sighed heavily. "If you knew this would happen, why did you do it?" She turned to leave, but paused at the door and said, "That kind of notebook. You either burn it or lock it in a safe, leaving it in a cabinet waiting for someone to find it. You are an absolute fool." Declan stood there, unable to say a word. His phone rang again. It was the director of the New York branch. "Mr. Montgomery, I checked all the flights from LAX to JFK today. Mrs. Sophia Hayes traveled on flight DL 412, arriving at JFK at 5 a.m. local time. I've already positioned people at the arrival gates, but she might slip out through a different exit. Watch every single exit. Do not let her escape." He hung up and checked the time. 10 a.m. 4 hours until his plane took off. He got into the SUV and told Ray, "To the airport." As the car was leaving the gates of Bel Air, Declan suddenly asked Ray to stop. He rolled down the window and looked back at the mansion. It was from here that Sophia took the Uber the night before. Did she look back when she left? Probably not, because she no longer felt any attachment to this house. New York, 5 a.m., JFK Airport. When Sophia walked out of Terminal 4, the sky hadn't yet brightened. The East Coast air was biting cold. She pulled her coat tighter, dragging her suitcase with one hand and supporting her lower back with the other. Outside the airport, there was a long line of yellow cabs. She got into one and gave an address in Astoria, Queens. It was an apartment Harper had rented for her. It wasn't huge, but it was clean and safe. The cab ride took about an hour. Harper was already waiting on the sidewalk. Seeing Sophia step out of the cab with her massive belly, Harper's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you so thin?" Harper rushed to hug her, but quickly pulled back, afraid of bumping her stomach. "I'm not thin, just swollen." Sophia smiled tiredly. Harper grabbed her luggage, and as they walked up the stairs, she cursed Declan. "That bastard. I want to buy a ticket to LA right now just to slap him across the face twice." Sophia smiled gently. "It's not worth insulting him. From now on, we have nothing to do with him." "Are you absolutely sure?" Harper asked. "Are you going to raise the baby on your own?" "Yes. With the last name Hayes. He doesn't deserve her." Harper looked at her expression and realized she was resolute. They entered the apartment. The space wasn't large, but Harper had prepared it beforehand. The sheets and bedding were brand new. Sophia sat on the sofa and let out a long sigh. "I finally made it out of there." Harper poured her a mug of warm water and sat down. "So what now? What are you going to do?" "First, have the baby. Then find a job and start over. And the divorce agreement. If he signs it, great. If not, it doesn't matter," Sophia said. "As long as I don't show up, after a year or two of separation, I can file for a unilateral divorce." Harper nodded. "Right. I support you 100%. Sophia rubbed her belly. "Lily, we've made it to our new home." The baby gave a firm kick. Harper grinned. "This kid is going to be just as stubborn as you." Sophia smiled too. It was the first genuine smile she'd had in days. Meanwhile, Declan was sitting in first class on a Delta flight to New York, his mind in absolute chaos. He closed his eyes to try to sleep, but as soon as he did, he saw Sophia's face, not her face now, but from 3 years ago. At that arranged coffee date at the Waldorf Astoria Beverly Hills, Sophia had worn a simple white dress, her hair down, wearing no makeup. She was sitting quietly in a corner reading a book. When Declan walked in, she looked up and smiled politely. That smile was as pure as a glass of water. At the time, Declan thought, this person isn't bad. At least she isn't annoying. And so, he agreed. Grandmother Eleanor arranged the wedding, and Sophia married him. On their wedding night, Declan didn't touch her. I feel nothing for you. I don't want to lead you on. Be a good Mrs. Montgomery, and I won't treat you poorly. Sophia remained silent for a long time, and finally said, okay, just one word. No crying, no making a scene, no asking why he hadn't said this before the vows. She accepted it calmly. At the time, Declan thought she was very understanding, very sensible. Now he realized, it wasn't understanding, it was disillusionment. From the very beginning, she had been disappointed. She just never said it out loud. The passengers in economy had finished boarding. Declan, sitting in first class, felt his chest tighten. He grabbed his phone, wanting to call Sophia's number again, but then remembered she had destroyed the SIM card. He didn't even know her new number. After takeoff, Declan asked the flight attendant for a glass of bourbon. Sir, would you care for any breakfast? The attendant asked. No, thank you. He took a sip, staring at the clouds out the window for the entire 5.5-hour flight. He didn't sleep a wink. When he arrived in New York, it was late afternoon. Declan stepped off the plane and turned on his phone. Dozens of messages flooded in. First, he read the one from the branch director. Mr. Montgomery, I apologize. We couldn't locate Mrs. Hayes. She must have slipped out through another terminal or taken a cab directly from the curb. We checked the security cameras, but JFK is too massive and we haven't pinpointed her yet. Declan slammed his fist violently against his leather carry-on. Passing travelers flinched. He took a deep breath and called the director. Keep looking. Pull every camera feed from every exit. Find the cab she got into and figure out where she went. Mr. Montgomery, that requires NYPD cooperation? The director stammered. Then bribe the NYPD. I'll pay whatever it takes. Just find her. He hung up and walked out of the terminal. The New York sky was overcast and gray. He stood on the curb, watching the strangers rush by. And for the first time in his life, he felt utterly powerless. He, who always believed there was nothing in the world Declan Montgomery couldn't control, now didn't even know where his own wife was. He got into the Blacktown car sent by the branch office and told the driver, to the hotel. As the car pulled away, he pulled out the black notebook. He had brought it with him, not knowing why, but feeling he had to. He opened to the first page, where Chloe's name was written. Now, looking at that name, he felt nothing but disgust. Not just disgust for Chloe, but for himself. How could he spend so much time pining over a woman who had married someone else, while never truly looking at the wife who was always by his side? Declan ripped the notebook apart, page by page, tearing it into tiny shreds. The fragments flew out the car window, scattering across the streets of New York. The driver, watching the scene in the rearview mirror, didn't dare say a word. At the Plaza Hotel, Declan checked in and threw his bag onto the bed. He grabbed his phone and reread the text messages Sophia had sent him over the years. In 3 years, she had sent him countless messages. Honey, it's getting cold. Make sure you wear a coat. Honey, what do you want for dinner tonight? I'll ask Mrs. Higgins to prep it. Honey, your grandmother came by today and brought crab. Honey, I'm pregnant. You're going to be a father. The last one was sent a week ago. Honey, I booked my prenatal checkup for next Wednesday. Do you have time to come with me? He hadn't replied to a single one. At the time, he found those messages too trivial, unnecessary to answer. Now he read them word for word, his eyes burning. Declan lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. His phone vibrated. It was a text from the branch director. Mr. Montgomery, we found the cab that took Mrs. Hayes. It's a yellow Ford. License plate. Declan sat up immediately, his heart hammering in his chest. The driver said he dropped Mrs. Hayes off at a walk-up apartment building in Astoria, Queens. I've sent you the address, but when my guys got there, the super said Mrs. Hayes had already checked out. She stayed for just a few hours and left. Declan was stunned. What did that mean? Checked out? It seems someone came to pick her up. We don't know where they went. Declan's phone dropped onto the bed. She was gone. She was gone again. He chased her all the way to New York, and she vanished again. Declan threw his suit jacket back on, sprinted out of the hotel room, got into the waiting town car, and yelled at the driver, "This address! Step on it!" When they reached the building in Queens, he rushed inside and found the superintendent. It was an older woman who looked him up and down. Declan asked breathlessly, "This morning, was there a pregnant Asian woman here?" "Yeah, she was here," the woman said. "But she's already gone." "Where did she go?" The woman shrugged. "I don't know. Her friend came to pick her up in a car and they drove off. Didn't leave a forwarding address." Declan's eyes turned red. "Did she say anything about where she was going?" The woman looked at him with a mix of suspicion and pity. "Are you her husband?" Declan nodded numbly. She looked really sad. Her eyes were all red. The friend who picked her up said she was taking her somewhere safe. "Sounds to me like the person she's running from is you, buddy." Those words were like a knife straight into Declan's heart. He stood on the sidewalk in front of the building, staring at the passing traffic. New York was massive, a city of over 8 million people. Looking for one person was like looking for a needle in a haystack. No. It was harder than looking for a needle in a haystack. Because this needle actively didn't want to be found. Declan crouched on the edge of the sidewalk, burying his face in his hands. Pedestrians gave him weird looks, but no one stopped. He remembered the words Sophia had told Mrs. Higgins before she left. That notebook. He doesn't need to hide it anymore. She knew everything. She knew he kept Chloe in his heart. She knew he had married her for convenience. She knew he had never loved her, and now she was gone. With his child. She didn't want his money, didn't want his last name, and wouldn't even let him see his own child. Declan grabbed his phone and called Harper. He had memorized her number from Sophia's emergency contacts list. The phone rang 4 times before she answered. Harper's voice was as cold as dry ice. "Hello? It's Declan Montgomery. Is Sophia with you?" "She's not." Harper laughed mockingly. "You actually have the nerve to call? I know I messed up. Please, just tell me where she is. I want to apologize to her in person." "Apologize? You think an I'm sorry fixes anything? You emotionally neglected her for 3 years and you think you can just flip the page with an apology? I can make it up to her. I'll do anything. You can't make it up to her. She doesn't need your money, and she doesn't need your status. The only thing she ever needed was a husband who loved her, and you never gave her that. And now, she doesn't even need you for the kid, because that baby is going to be a Hayes." Declan's voice trembled. "The child has my last name." "No. The child has her last name. Your Montgomery family has absolutely nothing to do with her." The call disconnected. Declan tried calling again, but the number was already turned off. He stood there in the chilling New York wind, and for the very first time in his life, he experienced true, absolute despair. 2 months later, an apartment on the Upper East Side, Manhattan. Sophia was leaning back on the sofa with a baby sleep training book in her hands, but she couldn't focus on a single word. Harper walked out of the kitchen with a bowl of chicken noodle soup and set it in front of her. "Your due date was 3 days ago and still no signs of anything," Harper noted. Sophia rubbed her belly. "This little girl likes it so much in here she doesn't want to come out." Harper laughed. "She's just like you. Takes her sweet time." Sophia had barely reached for the bowl when a sharp, searing pain shot through her abdomen. The bowl crashed to the floor and shattered. "What's wrong?" Harper jumped. Sophia gritted her teeth and gasped. "I think my water just broke." Harper dropped everything, immediately dialed 911, and grabbed the hospital bag, which this time was actually fully packed. "Don't move. Deep breaths. Deep breaths." Sophia was sweating profusely, but she didn't scream once. She bit her lip, placed a hand on her stomach, and thought, "Lily, Mommy's right here. Don't be afraid." The ambulance arrived quickly. 2 EMTs loaded her onto a stretcher. Harper rode with them to Mount Sinai Hospital. The attending OB, GYN examined her and declared she was already 5 centimeters dilated and needed to go straight to the delivery room. When Sophia was wheeled in, Harper stayed in the hallway, pacing back and forth anxiously. She pulled out her phone and hesitated for a long time, but ultimately decided not to call Declan. That man didn't deserve to know. In the delivery room, Sophia lay on the bed, her hair soaked in sweat. The nurse coached her to push. She gritted her teeth and bore down. Waves of excruciating pain crashed over her like a riptide. She felt like her body was being ripped in half, but she didn't scream. She remembered Declan, who had never accompanied her to a single prenatal appointment. She remembered all the times she had gone to Cedars-Sinai alone. She remembered the nights her back ached and she had no one beside her. She remembered Declan's business dinners, his trips, his unreturned texts. A surge of inner strength took over. With one massive push, a loud, piercing cry filled the room. The nurse scooped up the tiny infant and smiled at her. "Congratulations, Mom." "It's a girl." Sophia reached out her arms. The nurse laid the baby on her chest. This tiny creature, eyes squeezed shut, was crying with her mouth wide open, her little fists clenched tight. Sophia's tears finally cascaded down her cheeks. "Lily, Mommy is right here. From now on, Mommy will take care of you. It's just the two of us." The baby stopped crying, as if she were listening. Sophia kissed her forehead and held her tight. As of today, she had real blood family in this world. That man, that notebook, everything belonging to the Montgomery family had absolutely nothing to do with her anymore. Out in the hallway, Harper heard the baby's cry and tears stream down her face. She slid down the wall, crying into her hands. A nurse stepped out and smiled. "Mom and baby are doing great." Harper thanked her profusely. Half an hour later, Sophia was moved to a recovery room. She looked exhausted, but her face was radiant. Harper walked in, looked at the tiny baby in the bassinet, and burst into tears again. "Stop crying," Sophia laughed weakly. "You look more exhausted than I do, and I'm the one who just gave birth." Harper wiped her eyes, laughing through the tears. "It's happy tears. Lily is so beautiful. She has your eyes." Sophia looked at her daughter. The little girl was already asleep, her mouth slightly open, breathing softly. "Harper, thank you. Seriously, I don't know how I would have survived without you." Harper grabbed her hand. "What are you talking about? You're my best friend." She paused. "By the way, are you really not going to tell Declan?" Sophia shook her head. "I'm not telling him. If he finds out, he'll definitely try to use his lawyers to take her from me. But what if he hires investigators? The Montgomery family's resources. It's not that hard to track someone down." Sophia thought for a moment. "I can't stay in New York much longer. In 3 months, I'm moving to another city." "Where?" Harper asked. "I haven't decided yet, but the further away, the better." Harper sighed. "You're too strong for your own good. You carry everything on your shoulders." Sophia looked at her daughter's face and said, "If I don't carry it, who will carry it for me?" Back in Los Angeles, at the Montgomery Group headquarters, Declan sat at his desk with a stack of contracts in front of him, but he couldn't read a single word. Over the last 2 months, he had lost 20 pounds. He had hired elite private investigators to search for Sophia in New York, but she had only stayed at that apartment in Queens for a few hours before vanishing. Her whereabouts were completely unknown. It was as if she had evaporated. The office doors swung open, and Grandmother Eleanor walked in, leaning on her cane. Declan stood up. "Grandmother, why are you here?" Eleanor sat down and glared at him. "I came to see what a mess you've turned into." Declan said nothing. "Still haven't found Sophia?" Eleanor asked. Declan shook his head. "I had them check all flight and border records. She didn't leave the country. She's still stateside. Maybe she changed her identity. If she doesn't want to show herself, I might never find her." Declan's hands balled into fists. "And there's one more thing," Eleanor said sharply. "Chloe Vance is back." Declan's head snapped up. Eleanor sneered. "She got divorced. That Singaporean billionaire dumped her. Yesterday she came to the estate looking for you. Said she wanted to see you." Declan's voice was ice cold. "I'm not seeing her." Eleanor scoffed. "You better remember what you just said. Because of you, Sophia left. If you bring Chloe Vance into that house, I swear I will end my own life." Eleanor left. Declan slumped back in his leather chair, grabbed his phone, and opened his photo gallery. He only had one photo of Sophia on his phone. It was taken on their wedding day. She was wearing her Vera Wang gown standing under a floral arch, her head slightly tilted, flashing a beautiful smile. She looked stunning that day, but he had never told her. He had never told her anything. Declan pressed the phone to his chest and closed his eyes. Suddenly, he felt an overwhelming desire to hear her call him honey. Even just once. But she would probably never call him that again. New York. 3 months later, Sophia, with baby Lily strapped to her chest in a carrier, was walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. Her daughter was now 3 months old. She was fair and chubby, with big, bright, dark eyes. She smiled at everyone. Sophia looked at her daughter's features and, for a fleeting moment, thought she looked a bit like Declan. So what if she did? Looks couldn't be changed. But as long as her last name was Hayes, she had nothing to do with the Montgomerys. Harper walked up from behind carrying 2 coffees. "Slow down. It's super windy." Sophia took a cup and took a sip. "Harper, I've decided to move to Seattle." "Seattle?" Harper asked. "Why?" "I sent out some resumes and a tech company offered me a job. The role is marketing director, and the salary is great. It's to hide from Declan, isn't it?" Sophia didn't deny it. "He's had investigators crawling all over New York for 3 months. I can't stay here. The West Coast is farther away from his NY hubs, and it's easier to blend in. But how are you going to work a corporate job alone with a baby?" "I already found a full-time live-in nanny. I've crunched the numbers for rent and her salary. I can afford it." Harper looked at her sympathetically. "Are you really never going to look for someone else?" Sophia smiled. "Who? I have Lily now, and that's enough for me." "Men? Forget it," Harper chuckled. "Fair enough. That scumbag Declan destroyed all your trust in men." Sophia hugged her baby tighter and looked out at the distant skyline. "One day I'll come back here. But not as Mrs. Montgomery. I'll come back as Sophia Hayes." "You want revenge?" Harper asked. "It's not revenge. I just want Declan Montgomery to know exactly what he lost." 3 years later. Montgomery Group headquarters, Los Angeles. Declan sat in the CEO's chair, listening to the departmental reports with a severe expression. In 3 years, he had changed drastically. He now went home promptly at 7 p.m. every night. He no longer stayed out at business dinners until midnight. He had retrieved the shredded notebook, taped it back together page by page, and locked it in a safe not to remember Chloe, but to remind himself that because of someone who wasn't worth it, he had lost the most valuable person in his life. Over these 3 years, he had never stopped looking for Sophia. He went through 5 different PI firms, spending millions of dollars, but the intel he got was always fragmented. He knew she had gone to Seattle, that she had a daughter, that she worked as a marketing director, but he could never pin down her exact home address. She covered her tracks far too well. His assistant knocked on the door and walked in. "Mr. Montgomery, there's a networking gala tonight in New York. Are you attending?" Declan was about to decline, but looking at the invitation, he noticed the host was a rising startup with heavy venture capital backing. "What company is this?" he asked. "It's called Serene Mom International. They produce luxury maternal and infant tech products. They say the founder is a brilliant woman who came out of nowhere. The company was founded just 2 years ago and is already valued at over $100 million. Declan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. "Serene Mom, Sophia. What is the founder's name?" he asked quickly. His assistant checked his iPad. "Sophia Hayes." Declan shot up from his desk. His ergonomic chair rolled backward and hit the window. The assistant jumped. "Mr. Montgomery, what's wrong?" Declan grabbed his car keys off the desk and stormed out. "What time is the event?" 7 p.m. at the Waldorf Astoria, the assistant called out. Declan checked his Rolex. It was 10 a.m. in LA. If he took the Gulfstream now, he could make it. He got into his car, his mind buzzing. "Sophia is back. She's back." "Where to, sir?" Ray asked from the driver's seat. "First, a florist. He had to buy a bouquet of flowers. No, 100 bouquets. He had to tell her he was wrong. In these 3 years, there hadn't been a single day he hadn't thought about her. At 7 p.m., inside the Waldorf Astoria ballroom, Sophia wore a sleek black evening gown, her hair swept up into an elegant chignon, wearing a simple strand of pearls. In 3 years, she had transformed. She was slimmer, but radiated health and power. There was a fierce determination and confidence in her eyes that was never there before. Holding her hand was a 3-year-old girl, Lily Hayes. The little girl wore a white tulle dress, her hair in 2 cute pigtails, with delicate features like a porcelain doll. She held her mother's hand and walked with surprising poise. Sophia knelt down to her daughter's level and said, "Lily, Mommy has to talk to some important men and women for a bit. You sit right here and eat some cake. Okay?" "Okay, Mommy," Lily nodded. "I'll be super good," she said in her sweet, high-pitched voice. Sophia smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. This was her masterpiece. Lily wasn't just beautiful. She was incredibly gifted. At 3 years old, she was already reading chapter books, doing double-digit mental math, and her vocabulary was on par with a first grader's. Sophia had her tested, and her IQ was 140. A certified genius. The ballroom was packed. When Sophia entered with her daughter, she immediately drew everyone's attention. She was stunning, not in a flashy, heavily made-up way, but with an elegance and serenity that came from within. Someone recognized her and whispered, "Isn't that Declan Montgomery's ex-wife? Why is she back, and with a kid? I heard she founded her own tech company and it's blowing up. Wow. She looks like a completely different person." Sophia smiled and shook hands with several venture capitalists. Her conversation was sharp, articulate, and flawless. Lily sat quietly in a chair nearby, eating a piece of red velvet cake without making a mess. At that moment, the grand doors to the ballroom swung open. Declan walked in. He wore a midnight blue Tom Ford suit and held a massive bouquet of deep red roses. His eyes instantly locked onto Sophia. The room fell dead silent. Everyone watched them. Declan walked toward Sophia step by step, his legs trembling slightly. Sophia saw him too. But her expression didn't change a fraction of an inch. No surprise, no nervousness, no emotion at all, as if she were looking at a complete stranger. Declan stopped right in front of her. His voice was raspy. "Sophia." Sophia offered a polite corporate smile. "Mr. Montgomery. It's been a long time. Mr. Montgomery." She called him Mr. Montgomery. Not Declan. Not honey. Mr. Montgomery. Declan felt like his heart was being put through a meat grinder. "Sophia, I've looked everywhere for you." "Really? What a hassle for you." Her tone was utterly indifferent. Declan held out the roses. "For you." Sophia glanced at the flowers but didn't reach for them. "Mr. Montgomery, I don't accept flowers from strangers." Declan's voice cracked. "I'm not a stranger, I'm your husband." Sophia chuckled softly. "Mr. Montgomery, we separated 3 years ago. If you still haven't signed the divorce papers, I can have my lawyers FedEx you another copy. Legally speaking, in California, after 3 years of abandonment, I can file for a unilateral divorce anyway." At that moment, Lily slid off her chair and trotted over to Sophia, staring up at Declan. "Mommy, who is this man?" she asked. Sophia looked down at her daughter with immediate warmth. "Lily, this is just someone Mommy used to know a long time ago. He's not important." Lily tilted her head, inspected Declan, and said something that made everyone in earshot drop their jaws. "Mister, the flowers in your hand are very red, but my mommy is highly allergic to pollen. Didn't you know that?" Audible gasps rippled through the ballroom. Declan stood frozen. Allergic to pollen. They were married for 3 years, and he had no idea Sophia was allergic to pollen. Sophia stroked her daughter's hair. "You see, Mr. Montgomery? My 3-year-old knows me, but you don't." Declan's face went pale. "Mister, you used to treat my mommy very badly," Lily added, her little hands on her hips. Declan slowly crouched down, looking at this little girl with her delicate features, his heart twisting in agony. "It was my fault. I will never do it again." Lily took a step back, hiding behind Sophia's leg, poking her head out. "I don't believe you. Mommy says you can never trust the words of a man who makes empty promises." The crowd murmured again. Sophia couldn't hide a proud smile. Not because of Declan's humiliation, but because of her daughter. "Lily, don't be rude." Lily wrinkled her nose, hugging her mother's leg and completely ignoring Declan. Declan stood back up, looking pleadingly at Sophia. He had a million things to say, but the words died in his throat. If we are going to speak, Mr. Montgomery, let's keep it professional, Sophia said smoothly. Tonight is a networking event. If you have a B2B collaboration proposal, you can schedule a meeting with my executive assistant. Saying that, she took Lily's hand and turned to walk away. Declan stood rooted to the spot, still holding the rejected bouquet of red roses. The thorns bit into his palm, but he didn't feel the pain. He watched Sophia's back. She was slimmer than before, but her posture was perfect, her steps commanding. She was walking away, hand in hand with that little girl. Declan looked down at the flowers. Lily said she was allergic to pollen. 3 years, and I'm only finding out now, the gala continued. Sophia, acting as if nothing had happened, mingled with VIPs and investors. Declan didn't leave. He stood in the corner watching her. He watched her laugh and command the room with ease, noticing the fleeting moments of absolute tenderness when she wiped frosting off her daughter's cheek. This woman had changed completely. Before, she was always cautious, never even daring to speak too loudly. She walked like she was afraid of stepping on a bug. Now, she was like an unsheathed sword, sharp, brilliant, and radiant. Declan thought about how he treated her 3 years ago and had the overwhelming urge to punch himself in the face. Just then, a woman in a white silk evening gown entered the ballroom. Heads turned. Chloe Vance looked even more glamorous than before, her face perfectly maintained by expensive dermatologists, looking like a woman in her 20s. She spotted Declan immediately and glided over with a bright smile. "Declan! It's been ages!" Declan's expression instantly turned glacial. "Why are you here? I heard you were going to be in New York for this, so I flew in," Chloe purred. "I really want to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about." Chloe smiled sweetly, putting a hand on his arm. "Don't be so cruel. After all, it's not like we don't have history. We have no relationship." Declan cut her off sharply, shrugging off her hand. Chloe's smile faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered it. "Declan, I know you're still mad at me for leaving, but I had my reasons. My father was drowning in debt, and that Singaporean investor saved us. I don't care about your reasons." Chloe bit her lip, tears welling up in her eyes. "Declan, I got divorced 2 years ago. There hasn't been a single day where I didn't think about you." Declan looked at her, and suddenly, he found her utterly pathetic. This was the woman he had written 12 pages about in a notebook. This was the woman he had ignored Sophia for 3 years over. This was the woman who had cost him his wife and his daughter. And now, she was standing in front of him claiming she missed him. "Chloe, do you have any idea what I lost because of that damn notebook?" Chloe looked confused. "What notebook?" "The Moleskine notebook I kept in college with everything about you. Sophia found it and she left me. She took my child." Chloe blinked rapidly. I don't know what notebook you're talking about." Declan stared at her intensely. "You don't know?" "I really don't," Chloe insisted. "Declan, I never touched your things." A thought flashed through Declan's mind. That notebook had been buried in the back of the oak cabinet, hidden behind a storage box. Sophia only found it when she was organizing the baby things. But why would Sophia dig through that specific box? Mrs. Higgins knew about the notebook, but she wouldn't have deliberately shown it to her on her own initiative. Unless, "Mr. Montgomery, don't tell me you still haven't figured it out." A cool voice rang out behind him. Declan turned. Sophia was standing there, holding a flute of champagne. "That notebook was deliberately placed there for me to find." "By who?" Declan asked. Sophia looked directly at Chloe. Chloe's face changed. "Why are you looking at me? What does this have to do with me?" Sophia calmly reached into her clutch, pulled out her phone, and hit play on an audio file. The voice of Mrs. Higgins, the housekeeper, echoed clearly. "Ma'am, my conscience is eating me alive. I have to tell you the truth. You didn't find that notebook by accident. Someone paid me to put it there. That afternoon, a woman came to the house while Mr. Montgomery was at work. She handed me an envelope with $20,000 in cash. She said she was an old friend of the boss and told me to put the notebook right inside the baby box so you would definitely see it when you went to pack. I was greedy, so I did it. Ma'am, please don't blame Mr. Montgomery. He had no idea." When the recording ended, Chloe's face was as white as a sheet of paper. Sophia looked at her. "Chloe, 3 years ago, you orchestrated the whole thing, didn't you?" Chloe's voice trembled. I don't know what you're talking about. After you married that billionaire in Singapore, your life didn't turn out so great. You heard Declan had gotten married, and you couldn't stand it. So 3 years ago, you flew back to LA, tracked down Mrs. Higgins, and bribed her to plant that notebook where I was guaranteed to find it. You knew I was heavily pregnant, hormonal, and emotionally fragile. You knew that if I saw that notebook, I would leave. You wanted me out of the picture so you could swoop back in and take my place. Chloe grew paler by the second, but she stubbornly denied it. You're slandering me. What proof do you have? An audio recording isn't enough. If that's not enough, I have Mrs. Higgins's sworn affidavit and the wire transfer records from the shell company you used to funnel the cash. Did you really think 20 grand doesn't leave a paper trail? Sophia stated coldly. Chloe took a step back. Declan, standing there, felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He turned to Chloe, his voice so cold it practically froze the air. It was you. Tears spilled down Chloe's cheeks. Declan, I just loved you too much. I couldn't stand the thought of you being married to someone else. Declan spoke through gritted teeth, word by word. You destroyed my family. Declan, please, Chloe sobbed, trying to grab his hand. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please forgive me. I'll make it up to you. I'll do anything. Declan violently yanked his hand away. His voice dripped with absolute repulsion. Get out of my sight. Humiliated and crying hysterically, Chloe ran out of the ballroom. Everyone in the room had watched the drama unfold. Whispers echoed off the crystal chandeliers. Sophia put her phone back in her clutch and looked at Declan. The truth is out, Mr. Montgomery. But remember this. Whatever was written in that notebook, you were the one who wrote it. No one held a gun to your head and forced you to write those words. Saying that, she turned and walked away. Declan wanted to chase after her, but his feet felt nailed to the floor. She was right. Chloe had plotted the conspiracy. But every single word in that book had been written by his own hand. He had loved Chloe. He had never loved Sophia. That was an unchangeable fact. Sophia went into a private VIP lounge and closed the door. Lily was sitting on a plush sofa, eating some fruit. Seeing her mother enter, she reached out her little arms to be picked up. Sophia scooped her up and sat down. Mommy, who was that lady you were talking to? Lily asked. Just a bad person. Did you beat her up? Lily asked seriously. Sophia laughed. I sure did. Lily clapped her hands. Mommy is the best. Sophia kissed her daughter's forehead. From the moment she had walked out of the Montgomery estate 3 years ago, she had sworn she would never let anyone walk all over her again. Today, she had proved it. The day after the gala, Declan was sitting in his New York office. He hadn't slept a wink. He had ordered his security team to investigate Chloe's movements from 3 years ago. The results came back immediately. Chloe had indeed flown into LAX 3 years ago for exactly 3 days. On one of those days, she had visited the Bel Air estate. Mrs. Higgins's bank account also showed a $20,000 deposit from a dummy corporation linked back to Chloe. All the evidence pointed to her. Declan threw the dossier onto his desk. He wanted to call Sophia, but he still didn't have her private number. He could only call Harper. Harper answered. And this time, she didn't hang up immediately. Harper, I need to see Sophia. I want to apologize to her in person. She asked me to give you a message. What is it? She said she is doing incredibly well and doesn't need your apology, and she hopes you won't disrupt her daughter's life. Her daughter is my daughter too. No, she is Lily Hayes. She is Lily Montgomery, Declan yelled. She has never spent a single cent of your money. She has never drank a drop of formula bought by you. You have never fulfilled a single day of your duty as a father. Declan was rendered speechless. Declan, if you really think you made a mistake, then stop bothering them. Those are Sophia's exact words. The line went dead. Declan sat in his chair, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the Manhattan skyline. The sun was shining brightly, but he felt freezing cold. A month later, Sophia's company hosted a massive international STEM and innovation expo for kids at the Javits Center in New York, inviting tech journalists and educators from across the globe. Declan attended as an anonymous corporate sponsor. He didn't care about the tech products. He just wanted to see Sophia and his daughter. The expo hall was packed to the brim. Sophia, wearing a sharp crimson blazer, was speaking on the main stage. Today, in addition to the tech showcase, We have a very special demonstration. My daughter, Lily Hayes, who is 3.5 years old, is going to perform a brief science experiment. A murmur of surprise swept through the audience. A 3.5-year-old doing a live experiment? Lily was led onto the stage. She wore a tiny white lab coat and oversized safety goggles. Her serious little face was impossibly cute. In front of her was a table lined with beakers and test tubes. Lily grabbed the microphone and said in her squeaky voice, "Hi, everybody. My name is Lily Hayes, and I'm 3.5. Today I'm going to do a chemistry experiment called elephant's toothpaste." The audience chuckled, endearing themselves to the tiny scientist. Lily began the experiment. She carefully poured hydrogen peroxide into the large beaker, added a squirt of dish soap, and dropped in blue food coloring. Finally, she poured in the catalyst, potassium iodide. Instantly, a massive, steaming column of blue foam shot up out of the beaker like a geyser. The crowd gasped and burst into applause. Lily set down the test tube and took a dramatic bow. "Thank you, everyone," the audience roared. A toddler had just flawlessly executed a high school-level chemistry demonstration without a single mistake. Her procedure as precise as a professional chemist's. A tech journalist in the front row raised his hand. "Little girl, who taught you how to do that?" "My mommy bought me a beginner's chemistry book. I read it by myself." "And you understood it all?" the journalist asked, amazed. Lily tilted her head. "I didn't know some of the big words, so I looked them up in the dictionary. But I understood most of it." The audience was floored again. A 3.5-year-old using a dictionary? Declan, sitting a few rows back, stared at the tiny figure on stage, his eyes bloodshot. That was his daughter. But he had never seen her grow up, never held her, never heard her call him Dad. A reporter sitting next to him recognized him. "Mr. Montgomery? Isn't that your daughter?" Declan didn't respond. "Her last name is Hayes," the reporter noted. "No, it's Montgomery. But the press release says Hayes. That's her mother's maiden name," the journalist insisted. Declan stood up abruptly and walked out of the auditorium. Out in the corridor, he leaned against the concrete wall and slowly slid down to the floor. He remembered Sophia's final words on the divorce papers. "The child will take my last name," with absolutely no ties to the Montgomery family. He had thought she was just writing in anger. But she had followed through. Lily was brilliant, beautiful, a literal genius. But she wasn't a Montgomery. After the showcase, Sophia and Lily exited through the backstage area. Declan was waiting for them in the hallway. Seeing him, Sophia tried to walk around him. Declan stepped into her path. "Sophia, please. I just want to say a few words to Lily." Sophia looked down at her daughter. "Lily, this man wants to talk to you. Do you want to listen to him?" Lily thought for a moment. "Okay." Declan dropped to one knee, looking closely at Lily's face. She had Sophia's features, but his jawline. "Lily, do you know who I am? You're my biological father." Declan froze. "You know?" "Yes. Your name is Declan Montgomery. You're the CEO of the Montgomery Group. 3 years ago, you were very mean to my mommy, so she took me away. I know all about it." Tears finally spilled over Declan's eyelashes. A billionaire in his 30s, he had never cried in front of a child. Lily reached into the pocket of her little lab coat, pulled out a Kleenex, and handed it to him. "Mr. No, Dad. Don't cry. Mommy says real men don't just cry, they fix things." Declan took the tissue, his hand trembling violently. "Lily, Dad is so sorry. Tell your mom I'm so sorry." "I know you're sorry," Lily said matter-of-factly, "but if you really want us to forgive you, just saying it isn't enough." "Tell me what you want me to do," Declan pleaded. Lily looked up at Sophia. Sophia gave her a tiny, imperceptible nod. Lily turned back to Declan. "I don't need you to do anything. I just want to tell you something." Declan held his breath. "Mommy says she forgives you for the past, but she's never going back to you. Because now she has her own company and her own life. She doesn't need to depend on anyone." Declan's tears fell harder. Sophia stepped forward and gently took Lily's hand. "Mr. Montgomery, Lily is still very young. I taught her to say these things, but I hope you understand the meaning behind them. My daughter and I are incredibly happy. You don't need to feel guilty, and you don't need to compensate us. The best outcome for all of us is to just leave each other alone." Declan stood up, looking directly into Sophia's eyes. "Sophia, Is there really zero chance for us? Mr. Montgomery, have you ever asked yourself one question? What question? Do you actually love me? Or do you only feel I'm important now because you lost me? Declan had no answer. For 3 years, you've been looking for me. But you were looking for your wife, not Sophia Hayes. You kicked Chloe Vance out. But in your world, there's still an empty void that needs filling. You aren't looking for me. You're looking for someone to give you peace of mind. Declan couldn't refute it. It hit too close to home. Sophia smiled. When you figure out the difference between love and possession, then maybe come find me. But by then, I'll probably already have a completely new life. Saying that, she picked up Lily and walked away. After a few steps, Lily looked over her mother's shoulder and waved. Bye, Dad. Declan stood rooted in the hallway, watching their silhouettes disappear around the corner. His daughter had called him Dad, but he didn't feel happy at all, because right after Dad came by. After leaving the Javits Center, Sophia and Lily took a black car straight back to the Serene Mom NY headquarters. In the back seat, Lily leaned against her mother and asked, Mommy, why won't you forgive Dad? Sophia thought for a moment. Lily, it's not that Mommy doesn't forgive him. It's just that Mommy never wants to live the way she used to. How was it before? Before, in that big house, no one truly cared about Mommy. Dad had someone else in his heart. Great-grandmother only cared about the family name, and the staff, even though they smiled to my face, laughed behind my back. Mommy was pregnant all alone, went to the doctor all alone, and had you all alone. I never want to go through that again. Lily hugged her mother fiercely. Mommy, I care about you. I'll take care of you when I get big. Sophia smiled, her heart melting. Okay, deal. When you get big, you take care of Mommy. Meanwhile, Declan returned to his New York office. His assistant brought him a folder. Mr. Montgomery, here is the full corporate dossier on Mrs. Hayes' company. Also, Chloe Vance posted a massive open letter online last night, confessing to everything she did 3 years ago. Declan opened the web browser. Chloe's post on X, formerly Twitter, was a long thread titled, I destroyed a family. My public apology to Sophia Hayes. In the thread, she detailed exactly how she had bribed Mrs. Higgins, how she planted the notebook where Sophia would find it, how she calculated that an 8-month pregnant, emotionally unstable woman would run away, and how she planned to slide back into Declan's life once she was gone. At the end, she wrote, I schemed for years. And in the end, I got nothing. Declan doesn't love me. Sophia won't forgive me. I deserve this. The thread went viral, hitting millions of views. The comments were ruthless. Oh my God, that is pure evil. When she was 8 months pregnant, Chloe is a professional homewrecker. Get wrecked. I feel so bad for Sophia, having to flee and give birth all alone. Honestly, the CEO husband is trash too. Didn't even know his own wife was allergic to pollen? Pathetic. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported Sophia and crucified Chloe. Sophia's secretary brought the iPad to her to show her the news. Sophia barely glanced at it. Let her say whatever she wants. It has nothing to do with me. That evening, Sophia was in her penthouse apartment playing Legos with Lily. The doorbell rang. When she opened it, she found Chloe standing there, her eyes swollen from crying. Sophia, I came to apologize. Sophia leaned casually against the doorframe. Your apology? I don't accept it. Chloe suddenly dropped to her knees in the hallway. Please. The internet is destroying me. If you don't forgive me, my life is ruined. Sophia looked down at her, her voice terrifyingly calm. Chloe, kneeling is your problem. Forgiving you is my decision. And honestly, you aren't worth the energy it takes to hate you, because you simply aren't important. Chloe sobbed. You know what? Declan never even loved me. He just loved the memory of his first love. He saw me as a symbol of his youth. I left him back then because I knew he didn't love me as a person. But that still didn't give me the right to destroy your family. I know I was wrong, Chloe cried. I was jealous of you. He married you. He gave you the Montgomery name. He gave me nothing. I married that guy in Singapore, and he beat me and insulted me every day. When I divorced him, I was left with zero. Sophia looked at her and delivered the final blow. Chloe, have you ever thought that the reason you have nothing isn't because of other people, but because of your own choices? Chloe looked stunned. Back then, you could have stayed. You could have fought his grandmother alongside Declan. But you chose to marry a billionaire for a payout. Then you chose to come back and try to steal my life. You chose to use bribery and manipulation. Every single step was a choice you made. You can't blame anyone else. Chloe collapsed onto the carpet, sobbing uncontrollably. Leave, Sophia said. I don't hate you, but I'm sure as hell not going to help you. She shut the heavy door. Lily ran over from the living room. Mommy, did that lady leave? Yes, she's gone. Mommy, you are so badass, Lily declared, mispronouncing the word slightly but grasping the concept perfectly. Sophia picked her up and laughed. When you grow up, you have to be just as badass, okay? The next day, Declan called a press conference. In front of dozens of cameras, he publicly admitted his negligence and emotional absence toward Sophia in the past. The failure of my marriage to Miss Sophia Hayes is 100% my fault. I should never have brought the ghost of my past into our marriage. I should never have neglected my pregnant wife. I should never have let her endure the hardest moments of her life completely alone. A reporter shouted, Mr. Montgomery, what do you want to say to Miss Hayes right now? Declan looked dead into the camera. Sophia, I'm sorry. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I only ask that you let me see my daughter. I was a terrible husband, but I hope you give me the chance to be a good father. The press conference was broadcast live on all major networks. Sophia watched it from her corner office. She tapped her manicured fingers on the mahogany desk, saying nothing. Miss Hayes, are we putting out a statement? Her PR director asked. No. And regarding him seeing his daughter? Sophia thought for a moment. Let Lily decide. She's small, but she knows what she wants. That night at home, Sophia explained the situation to Lily. Lily tilted her head, pondering. Mommy, can I go on a playdate with Dad for just one day? Why? Sophia asked gently. Because his eyes looked really red on TV. He looked super sad. And I'm curious what a CEO dad does for fun. Sophia smiled. Okay, Mommy will set it up. She texted Harper. Help me set up a meeting with Declan. Harper replied instantly. Did you go soft? Sophia typed back. No. Lily went soft. This kid is just like me, tough on the outside. A total marshmallow on the inside. Sophia put her phone down and looked out the window. The Manhattan skyline glittered outside her balcony. 3 years. She thought she was completely over it. But today, seeing Declan on TV, his eyes red, publicly begging for a chance, her heart had ached just a tiny bit. Not for the man he was now, but for the girl who had once loved him so much. Saturday. A private room at a high-end cafe near Central Park. Declan arrived an hour early. He had changed his outfit 6 times before finally settling on a casual navy cashmere sweater, less corporate, more approachable. On the table were the gifts he had prepared. A premium imported STEM chemistry set designed for kids. On the chair opposite him sat a giant stuffed bear. Sophia had dictated that he would only get exactly 2 hours with Lily. She would be nearby, but wouldn't participate. The door opened. Sophia walked in holding Lily's hand. Lily was wearing a pink hoodie, and her hair was in a messy bun. Her little cheeks were rosy from the cold. Seeing Declan, she smiled brightly. Dad. Hearing that word made Declan's eyes well up instantly. Sophia knelt down. Lily, Mommy is going to sit right over there at the bar. You play with Dad for a bit. If you need anything, just yell for me. Lily nodded and ran over to Declan. Declan dropped to his knees to catch her, his hands shaking. He was finally holding his daughter. 3 years, 4 months, and 7 days. He had waited for this exact moment for 3 years, 4 months, and 7 days. Lily hugged his neck. Dad, you smell really good. Declan's voice was thick with emotion. I didn't wear cologne today, but Mommy used to like your old cologne. I know, Declan said softly, but she told me once that the smell makes her think of sad things. So Dad will never wear it again. Lily sat in her chair, and when she saw the presents, her eyes lit up like saucers. Whoa, a real chemistry set. She tore into the box with absolute enthusiasm, pulling out the test tubes. Declan watched his daughter, marveling at how much she resembled Sophia when she was focused serious, with a fiery spark of determination in her eyes. Lily played for about half an hour, then suddenly looked up and asked a question that caught Declan completely off guard. "Dad, do you still like that Chloe lady?" Declan froze. "How do you know about Chloe?" "Mommy told me. She said you used to like Chloe, and you wrote 12 whole pages about her in a book. But then Chloe did something bad, and you stopped liking her." "Dad hasn't liked her for a very long time," Declan said firmly. "So do you like my mommy?" Lily asked directly. Declan was quiet for a second. "I do. Very much. But Mommy says you didn't like her before." Before, Dad was blind. Now Dad knows he made a huge mistake. "Your mom is the best person in the whole wide world." "But Mommy is right," Lily deduced logically. "Maybe you don't really love her. Maybe you just feel bad because you lost her." Lily tilted her head. This 3.5-year-old delivered a truth bomb that Declan would never forget. "Dad, you know what? Mommy says loving someone doesn't mean thinking they are important to you. It means thinking their happiness is more important than your own." Declan stared at his daughter, awestruck. "Before, you made Mommy very unhappy, which means you didn't love her enough," Lily concluded. "If you can make her happy in the future, then that means you really love her." Declan pulled his daughter into a tight embrace. He cried, and this time, he didn't try to hide it. 2 hours later, Sophia walked over. Lily had fallen asleep in Declan's arms, her tiny fist still clutching his cashmere sweater. Declan looked up at Sophia, his eyes red. She fell asleep. "I don't have the heart to wake her up." Sophia sighed softly and carefully took her daughter from his arms. Lily mumbled something in her sleep and snuggled into her mother's shoulder. "She likes you a lot," Sophia admitted. Can I see her once a week?" Sophia thought for a moment. "You can. But you cannot interfere with her normal routine." Declan nodded vigorously. "Never. I promise." Sophia turned to leave. Declan called out to her. "Sophia." She paused and looked back. "I won't bother you anymore," Declan said quietly. "But thank you. Thank you for raising Lily so beautifully. She's my daughter. Raising her is my privilege." She walked out the door. Declan stayed in the cafe, watching them disappear down the busy New York street. This time, he didn't chase after her. He sat back down, buried his face in his hands, and cried until there was nothing left. 1 year later, Sophia's company, Serene Mom, went public on the NASDAQ. She stood on the balcony overlooking Times Square wearing a striking power red suit, her hair flowing freely, sporting a confident, radiant smile. Lily was right beside her, wearing a matching red dress, holding a small golden gavel. Mother and daughter struck the opening bell together. Confetti rained down as the trading floor erupted in applause. Declan, standing in the front row of the VIP section on the floor, clapped harder than anyone else. His eyes were entirely fixed on the brilliant woman on the balcony. She was no longer his wife, but she was a wildly successful CEO, an incredible mother, and a woman everyone admired. At the celebration gala that evening, a Wall Street Journal reporter interviewed Sophia. "Miss Hayes, looking back, do you ever regret leaving the Montgomery family and all that wealth?" "I have zero regrets," Sophia answered flawlessly. "If I hadn't left, I'd probably still be a housewife folding laundry in a Bel Air mansion. Now, I have my own empire, a genius daughter, and a team of partners who share my vision. The Montgomery family gave me everything, and at the same time, they gave me nothing." "And what is your current relationship with Mr. Declan Montgomery?" the reporter pressed. "We are Lily's parents. We are not a couple. He has his life, and I have mine. We are parallel lines that will never intersect again." When those words reached Declan's ears later that night, he didn't react with anger or despair. He had finally accepted the truth. Some people, once you lose them, are lost to you forever. After the gala, Sophia and Lily took a black SUV back to their Manhattan townhouse. Stopped at a red light, Lily suddenly said, "Mommy, I think Dad still really likes you." "Kids don't understand these things, Lily. I do too. The way he looks at you is totally different from how he looks at other people." Sophia didn't say anything. The light turned green. The car accelerated, and the neon lights of the city blurred past the window. Sophia murmured something so quietly she wasn't sure if her daughter heard. "Sometimes people love you, but you don't realize it. By the time you figure it out, you just don't love them back anymore. Lily tilted her head. Mommy, what did you say? Sophia smiled. Nothing, Bug. Mommy wanted to ask you. What do you want to be when you grow up? Lily thought hard. I want to be a scientist. And win the Nobel Prize. And then what? Sophia asked. And then I'll buy a giant house for Mommy. Way bigger than Dad's house. Sophia laughed out loud. Okay, Mommy will hold you to that. The SUV pulled up to their private townhouse in the Upper East Side. Sophia, holding her daughter's hand, walked up the brownstone steps. At the front door, sitting perfectly on the welcome mat, was a massive bouquet of flowers. They weren't roses. It was baby's breath. Completely pollen-free, no allergens. Tucked into the flowers was a thick cardstock envelope. Sophia opened it. Sophia, today is the day your company went public. Congratulations. These flowers won't trigger your allergies. I double-checked. You don't need to reply. I just want you to know that there is someone out there who is always rooting for you. Declan. Sophia stood there, holding the card for a long time. Lily looked up at her. Mommy, did Dad send those? Yes, Sophia said. She slid the card into her designer purse, choosing not to throw it away. She unlocked the heavy front door and guided her daughter inside. But as the door clicked shut, she left the bouquet of baby's breath sitting outside on the welcome mat. Not because she hated them, but because she acknowledged the gesture without needing to bring it into her home. Because her life, ever since that rainy night in Bel Air 3 years ago, no longer required anyone else's flowers. She could buy her own.